still in the tide with you. See your fellow comrades, your fellow accomplices in this liberation journey. And as the sun begins to set, we remember why we walk. We set a sacred intention for why it is that we are here, why it is we continue to come together. We walk for justice.
We walk in unity.
We walk for truth.
We walk for all those who've been affected by police violence and other forms of violence and oppression.
We walk for the dead.
We walk for those who cannot walk.
We walk for the living. We walk for our children. We walk for our brothers, our sisters, our aunties, our uncles, our mothers, our fathers.
We walk for those who have committed acts of oppression. Knowing that they too need healing.
We walk in the blood of all of our ancestors.
We walk for all those who are here today and those who are with us in spirit.
We walk in the Spirit.
We invite you to silently decide what is your intention for why you are walking. What is your intention for yourself personally? And what's your intention for Richmond and for our nation? We invite you to just be very prayerful in the way that you consider this as you're walking. And we will be offering some meditative prompts, and you can just let them go if it doesn't suit you, or you can use it as something to inspire you.
And as we walk, know that it's okay and even advisable to allow silence. There's so much to listen to. Even in the stillness, there's a song, I think by Aretha Franklin, where it says, "In the stillness of the midnight, sacred secrets will unfold." It's in the silence that we learn so much.
Perfectly with what I was about to say, which is allowing the natural emotions to flow freely. Which can be anything from laughing at ourselves and others, and also the sadness and the grief and the anger and many other emotions that we may feel. Just allow that to flow and try not to be self-conscious. All right, so we're going to start walking, and at some points we'll be completely silent to allow for anything to arise within you. And I guess that's about it. And maybe later we will ask people if they would like to share an intention that they had during the walk. And possibly Clyde might ask to video you on that. Thank you so much for being here. You've done your job.
Nobody wants
This
that
is an invitation to avoid the chit-chat and try to just be in your own rhythm and with your own spirit.
So that's all about the intersection of not only economic inequities, but
Do that anytime.
Freedom and racial and sexual justice. Time for women and children and men. Time for hands unbound. I had come into the city wearing peaceful breasts, and the spaces between us smiled. I had come into the city carrying life in my eyes, and they followed us in their cars and their computers, and their tongues crawled with caterpillars, and they bumped us off the road and turned over our cars, and they bombed our buildings and killed our babies, and they shot our doctors, maintaining our bodies, and their courts changed into confessionals. But we kept on organizing, and we kept on teaching, believing, loving, doing what was holy, moving to a higher ground, even though our hands were full of slaughtered teeth. But we held out our eyes, delirious with grace. We held out our eyes, delirious with grace. Come, I say come. You sitting still in domestic bacteria. Come, I say come. You standing in double-breasted mournings. Come, I say come, and return to the fight. This fight for the earth. This fight for our children. This fight for our life. We need your hurricane voices. We need your sacred hands. I say come, sister, brother, to the battlefield. Come into the rainforest. Come into the hood. Come into the barrio. Come into the schools. Come into the abortion clinics. Come into the prisons. Come and caress our spines. I say come. Wrap your feet around justice. I say come. Wrap your tongues around truth. I say come. Wrap your deeds with prayer. You brown ones, you yellow ones, you black ones, you gay ones, you white ones, you lesbian ones. Come. Come to this battlefield called life. Called life. Called life.
I think I remember that. Yeah. Sorry.
Right.
Yes, very much so. Great crowd. And blocking the path. You never know which color.
building's pretty. Resistance. May I find the inner resources to genuinely contribute where needed. May I remain peaceful and let go of fixation. I care about the pain of others, yet I know I cannot control it. May I offer care, knowing I don't control the course of life, suffering, or death. I wish all beings contentment, but I cannot make their choices for them. May I see my limits with compassion, just as I see the limits of others with compassion. May I be undisturbed by the changing circumstances of my life. I'm going to say that again. May I be undisturbed by the changing circumstances of my life. I care for all beings, but my way is not the only way. All beings have their own journey, and I have mine. May I offer my support, knowing that what I offer may be of great benefit, some benefit, or even no benefit, and yet still I offer it. May I be free from preference and prejudice. May I bear witness to things just as they are. May I offer my prayer without conditions, knowing I may be met with appreciation, resentment, or resistance. May I see the world with patient eyes.
About as well as anything that I've ever heard, a vision that is central to coming to the table national and to the local coming to the table. Our vision too is of a United States that is a just and truthful society that acknowledges and seeks to heal wounds from racism that is rooted in the United States history of slavery. Martin Luther King wanted those of descendants of the enslaved and the descendants of the enslavers to one day sit down at table together. That is what we do at coming to the table on a regular basis. Pre-COVID, it was at dinner tables. Now it tends to be on Zoom, but we still have our small group opportunities to share our stories, to learn truth from a different perspective. We have cards on the table that give our vision and mission if you want to pick one up to be able to reflect on it. Our Richmond chapter welcomes all of those, whether they know their family histories or not, but who are looking forward to the day that the USA lives up to the promises of its founding documents and its pledge. One nation, indivisible, with justice, equality, and liberty for all. In awareness of that widespread desire for one nation and one people called American, I had a plan and couldn't find more of these, but I want you to look at and kind of think about this American flag and lift it up in your mind's eye. American. As you lifted up in your mind's eye and have looked around to see the variety of faces and bodies in this crowd, our descriptors might be different. I may be European American, you may be African American, Latino, Asian American, you may be Muslim, Christian, you may have a different descriptor, but all of those are lowercase letter descriptors. For the major, for the capital letter American in this place at this time. And that is what we are all here in unity about, I believe. I am very thankful for the groups that have joined us and who have been ahead of us in the work to create a unified American population that recognizes all its citizens and their worth and the joy of their being. In my vision, before I couldn't find enough flags, we were all going to plant one flag in the grass and take our stand as Americans who are for a unified country with a just, thank you. I am walking, or we have walked toward an American table that welcomes me and welcomes you with all of our descriptors. We walk in unity. We have some of the groups, and I'm going to need help with this, some of the groups who are represented and who are going to say just a little bit later are Black Lives Matter 804, Child Savers, the Richmond Pledge organization, the organization of
There's VCIC,
Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy, the Inclusive Communities Center for others. We'll hear from all of them just briefly, from RISC also, which is Richmonders involved in to strengthen our communities. We had hoped that Rose Simmons would be here as a representative from the Charleston 9, as a member of that church. She is apparently not here, not able to make it because of a family emergency. So the next thing we are going to do is to enjoy some of the quotes from Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech.
Luther King Jr. speech, I Have a Dream, August 28, 1963. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself an exile in his own homeland. So we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition, a promise that all men, yes, black men, as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Said, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us, upon demand, the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We also have come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now.
In the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real of the promise of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children.
Forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to generate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy, which has engulfed the Negro community, must not lead us to distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. They have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone.
I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
That one day, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring.
And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, we will let it ring from every village, every hamlet, from every state and every city. We will be able to speed up the day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, I am free at last. And I add, independent without land and a voice is freedom being rented in silence.
That's right. Can follow that, but I'm certainly going to try. That was beautiful. Thank you. And all of those beautiful blended generations and faces. Wasn't that gorgeous? It was gorgeous. Thank you. So we're standing here today, and not on Monument Avenue, because we know that the first 400 years have gotten us this far. But we're here today to bring the legacy and the commitment of Dr. Martin Luther King into the next 400 years of this great city. And this is his day, so you're going to see a lot of things on television, on YouTube, and everything about him. But I want to tell you some other things about King that you may not know. Did you know that Dr. King loved himself some jazz? He was an aficionado, and he loved music. And I've been told that he could tell some really goofy egghead jokes from time to time. He was a really nice and likable guy, like a lot of you. And even though he was very smart and a learned man, he didn't have all the answers. You know, when he married Coretta, he was supposed to plan the honeymoon, and he forgot that he was in Alabama, and there was not a hotel that would keep him that night. So they spent their first night as a married couple in the back room of a funeral home. I don't know if that would have gone well over with me. But he loved his wife, he loved his family, and he moved to Montgomery, Alabama when the famous 1956 bus boycott began. At the time, King was only 26 years old and pretty much unknown in activist spaces, though he had previously expressed interest in social justice. He did not plan to be a civil rights leader. Oh no. In fact, it's true that King opposed the boycott because he was worried that people that he knew would lose their jobs, and black people certainly needed to keep their jobs. But he listened and learned from the people. He even saw their plight and what they really needed more than a paycheck. He was moved to action. When he finally realized the ultimate goal behind the protest, he volunteered to help and offered his church basement as a meeting spot for boycott organizers. During their first meeting, the group elected Martin Luther King as their president, mostly because nobody else stepped up to the role. He sat down at that moment and wrote his very first political speech in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. That means he wrote the speech from his heart. Dr. King, from the very beginning, brought love to the fight. King was an elected volunteer. Volunteers are ordinary yet extraordinary people. I should know. I work with a lot of wonderful ones that are out here now. Give me a shout out, y'all. We love you. He just simply decided to show up for a good cause and a good fight. And yes, in the immortal words of John Lewis, he was looking for some good trouble. And King knew the value of individuals standing together for what was right. Things we do know, King was an intellectual, a scholar, and a phenomenal writer and orator. But at his core, he had the spirit of a good old Southern preacher. He liked to go from house to house and pray for folks and take them food and listen to them and sit by their sick bed. He was an arbitrator, a mediator, a negotiator. And what he did for the least of us, he did for all of us. Martin Luther King Jr. knew the value of bringing people together across all boundaries, all lines, all communities, all racial imbalance, all political factions, all ethnic groups, all differences, all persuasions, all races. And now more than ever, we need to cross those same lines that have traditionally divided us. Now more than ever, we need to see ourselves in the eyes of each other, each one of us, and see ourselves as integrated parts of a broader vision of humanity, a broader vision of Richmond. This is the time to organize and recognize each other for the cultural collateral and capital we all bring to the table.
And we need to honor and acknowledge the gifts of each generation and what they provide. I'm so proud that we have our friends here from Black Lives Matter. They were the first to answer this call. And I'm going to say to you, as we all agree, there really is no generation gap. There's a generation bridge, because we've been fighting for the same things in this country for a long, long time. I'm ready to cross the bridge. Are you?
Yes.
We the people have the power to stand together for truth and justice today. We need to hold each other accountable for our personal growth to become empowered citizens of this Commonwealth and boldly walk together to redefine and redesign all of our communities. It is time to literally come to the table, not talk at each other, not talk about each other, but to each other as we explore our entwined history. We believe in truth-telling in history. That's why we're here today. We believe in building relationships that serve all corners of this city. We dare to examine our old wounds so they will finally heal and move forward in concerted and individual action for change. Today, we walked together commemorating one great king. Now I want you all to wake up to the fact that we all have a king or a queen inside of us. We encourage you to listen to the small voice inside that wants to speak up when you hear racial slurs or microaggressions at the workplace. Be willing to teach someone, anyone, another way of thinking, being, and doing. This is how you bring love to this fight.
Yes.
Say it with me. Bring love to the fight. Pay attention when you hear on the news that sewage systems have failed in another part of Richmond, in another community, or that there is no grocery store within miles and miles that has fresh food. Even if it's not the city, even if it's not the part of the city that you live in, call your district representative and let them know how you feel about this. This is how you bring love to the fight. I know you got on a mask, but I need to hear you out there. Love to the fight. Thank you, my co-founder. I appreciate that. Ashe, ashe. When you realize the rerouting of the city transit system has made it hard for marginalized communities, those other people, to get to work, you need to challenge those in authority and make those decisions happen to make those things right. Again, this is how we bring love to the fight. You're catching up. You're catching up. When the wealth gap and the health gap cause the poor, the elders, the children to suffer in silence because they have not been heard and they seem not to have no voice and no one is listening anyway, we need to be their voice. Holler for them. Say no more. This is how we bring love to the fight. And when you choose to face up to our tragic beginnings as a nation, confess the wrong and do the right thing, truly from your hearts and your mind and all of your energy, this is how you bring love to the fight. And let's be clear. There is no racial healing, and there will never be, without reparative action. We've got to all get up and do something. In Dr. King's life, as a reluctant peace builder and activist, he spoke all over the world. 2,500 public events, 2,500. In November, you only have to show up for one. And finally, vote. And fight voter suppression, because this is how you bring love to the fight. We invite you to be a part of Coming to the Table and many other organizations that are represented here today. We want you to know that you are heard and you have a family and people waiting for you to join in love with them in this movement. And now it's my honor and pleasure to invite some of these warriors to the podium with me. People who are doing the work. I know I mentioned Black Lives Matter. I mentioned VCIC, and there may be somebody here from RISC. What is it? League of Women's Voters, Child Savers. You know I'm gonna mess somebody up. Who?
First UU.
First UU. Okay, First UU. We're going to hear their commitments here at the mic, and then we're going to have Annette Marquise, who I don't see right now, but I know she's here. Okay, bye. Okay, we're going to have her here, and we're all going to say the Richmond Pledge together. And then we're hoping that you all will commune with each other, even with your mask and, you know, keeping the social distancing happening. But ask your questions. This is all about answers and actions today. Thank you for your time, and continue to bring love to the fight. Thank you. Oh, you want to say it one more time? This is my rabble-rousing co-founder here, Miss Martha Rollins, you guys. Okay. And she wants us all to do what? Bring love to the fight. Okay. One more time, because I didn't have it turned on. Ready? Bring love to the fight. Okay. I know you got that now, right?
Can you guys hear me? Hi, Lee. My name is Roberta Oster, and I believe if we work together, wonderful organizations coming together, we can fight for racial, economic, social, and environmental justice. I'm part of the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy, and that is our mission. And I work there because I believe that I'm connecting my faith, my values, and my ethics with my work. And there's never been in my lifetime a more critical time to speak up for justice. So we stand together with Coming to the Table and all these wonderful organizations and individuals in this beautiful city committed to justice. We are making the dream a reality in RBA. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Robert Bowling, and I'm here because I believe that racial reconciliation only exists when we stir the pot of our comfort and lean deeply into our discomfort. I am the CEO of Child Savers, a mental health and child development agency that supports children and their families. And I'm here and part of that agency's work because I believe that all children should be safe, happy, healthy, and ready to learn. Today, Child Savers stands together with Coming to the Table to ensure unity through stirring our pot and leaning into our discomfort.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Jean Pupke, and I have the honor of serving First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond, but I bring all of our churches who are represented here today into that, all UUs. I'm part of Unitarian Universalism because we believe that if healing for healing for racial wounds can come together in Richmond, then healing can happen everywhere in this country. For this is the ground zero of racism. Today we stand ready to pledge our resources, our comfort, our privilege, to throw them away in service of that great American ideal of a final equality which sees all people as worthy and inherently full of dignity. Thank you.
Hello, I am Ralph Rohn. I believe that Black lives have been under assault in this Commonwealth and in this nation for over 400 years. And that has been a sustained physical, mental, spiritual, and legal assault. But I also believe that no matter who we are, whether we be white, black, red, brown, yellow, LBGQT, whatever religion we are, or whatever label we choose to put on ourselves, or whatever label is placed upon us by others, that there are enough of us in both this Commonwealth and this nation that believe in freedom, justice, equality. There are enough of us to truly make America great. I stand, and BLM stands with everyone here. We stand in solidarity to fight for that freedom, justice, and equality. Power to the people.
I'm Charlie Summers, a part of the Richmonders involved to strengthen our community, a direct action, grassroots organization of 22 congregations. For 20 years, we have worked on changing public policy for greater equality and greater racial justice in the Richmond area. We are making the dream a reality. Thank you.
Good evening. I would just like to say thank you for coming out, and I would like to give everybody a charge today. I think that these conversations here at the monument and places like this should lead back to the communities that we advocate for. I think that a lot of things that happen up here that I'm proud of and I'm not too proud of, that it was misdirected energy, that it should go back to the communities that we are out here advocating for. So next Saturday on September the 5th, we want to do a march like this in Gilpin Court. Yes. Where we can love on them and say to them that their lives matter. Yes. Because if we speak to them, they'll speak back. But a statue does not speak back. Power to the people.
Hi, my name is Lorna Charlton.
You gotta be in
okay.
the yeah.
My name is Lorna Charlton. I'm with Coming to the Table and the Poor People's Campaign, a moral revival.
Lorna, you have to speak directly in the microphone.
Okay. Okay. Should I start over?
Yes.
My name is Lorna Charlton, and I believe in equal justice and the power of love. I am part of the Coming to the Table and the Poor People's Campaign because there is a war on the poor. Today, we stand together fighting the interlocking injustices of systemic racism, systemic poverty, environmental degradation, the war economy and militarism, and the moral narrative of religious nationalism. We are making the dream a reality in Richmond, Virginia.
Yes. Thank you, Lorna.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Zor, and I believe that the lives of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Jacob Blake, and so many more known and unknown matter. I am part of the Virginia Center for Inclusive Communities because I believe it is my responsibility and all of our responsibilities to work to make Virginia a more equitable, inclusive, and just Commonwealth for all of us. Today, I join with my colleagues and board and chapter members to stand together with you, committed to doing everything we can to bend the arc of the moral universe ever closer to justice. Together, we are making the dream a reality in RVA. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I'm so glad that I was able to participate in this activity with you today and be able to walk in unity. My name is Nicole Colon, and I believe in unity. And my part that I want to share with everyone is that we need an edvolution. Why? It's because it's time to evolve from systematic racism. Today, I stand together committing to educating all children equally. And we stand, that acronym is a peace. Please educate all children equally.
Hello everyone, I'm Lynn Johnston with the League of Women Voters. We were just here for a big event on Wednesday, and this is a thrill to be back with this wonderful group. I am a member of the Coming to the Table and have been for years, and with BCIC and VICPP, all these groups. And today I represent the League of Women Voters, whose mission, which is entirely nonpartisan, is to commit everyone to the ideals of American democracy, and just to ensure that everyone has a secure and safe access to the vote, that the barriers are being removed for all citizens. And this comes about when you have a voice. You don't have a voice unless you go out to vote. And this is what brings about policy changes, social justice, the reforms that are so badly needed in our country today. So the challenges this year are greater than ever to hold our people accountable for both truth and justice. Help us get out the vote. We have literature, we have registration forms, we have bookmarks, and I'd love for you to say with us the mission, which is empowering voters, defending democracy. Empowering voters, defending democracy.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Martha Rollins, and I'm here representing Dismantling Racism, Building Beloved Community Committee from the Presbyterian of the James. I represent that because I think the church has for far too long been silent about things that matter. And it's dear to my heart that we come alive and live the gospel of truth and community and justice. So we're committed, the Dismantling Racism of Presbyterian of the James has committed to coming to the table to support it. And they help to make some of these things possible with their funding. So thank you for being here.
Good evening. I want to thank the Coming to the Table for being open and welcoming and having all of us here together and inviting all of us to, from organizations to have a chance to come up and say a few words. My name is Don Glazer, and I believe in a future where racism, and we're a future without racism. I'm a leader with the Jewish Community Federation of Richmond because we also believe in a future without bias and bigotry of any kind. Today we stand together, committed to the fight for racial equality and social justice. We are making the dream a reality in RVA.
My name is Annette Marquis, and I believe that we can end racism. But we can only end racism if all of us are involved every day of our lives. I'm a part of the Richmond Pledge to End Racism, and I'm a part of that organization because it inspires me to stay accountable to that task, to doing that work every day. Together we stand and work together to inspire and encourage and engage everyone in this work. So I'm going to invite you today to share the pledge to end racism. Many of you have the postcards. I just want to say a word about that. The pledge to end racism was actually founded by a man in Birmingham, Alabama, a white man, in 1998. And he knew that something had to change in his city. And so he wrote these words, or many of these words, you will see a slight adaptation here, to end racism in his city. Well, we know that racism hasn't ended in Birmingham, Alabama. But I will tell you that if you go to Birmingham today, the words of this pledge are painted on the wall of the the Birmingham police station. They're a mural on the outside wall of the Birmingham police station. You know that it took a lot of work to get it to that place. It's keeping it visible, keeping it real. So we started the Richmond Pledge to End Racism so that each one of us commits every day to doing something to end racism. This isn't a once in a while thing when some news story catches our attention. This is something we have to do every day. So if you don't have a card with the words on it, there's plenty of them here and other people have them to pass around, but please share the Pledge to End Racism, which is richmondpledge.org is our website. We offer a 12-hour workshop that we've just made virtual so that you can attend it online, that inspires and encourages people to develop their own plan for what their commitments are to end racism, so that they have a concrete plan of what they are going to do. So please share with me. I want to, first of all though, before I do that, if you have already signed the pledge and you are working to end racism, would you mind coming forward? If you could just come forward, I'd like to have the people that have been involved in doing this work, please come forward if you've already signed the pledge. And we're going to ask you to lead everyone in this pledge so you all can commit together. Now, this does not mean that the rest of you out here aren't doing anything. I know better than that. What it means is that we have committed together to be accountable to one another to do this work. Got to get on the steps for the photo op, folks.
Go back in. There you go.
All right.
Keep your mask on.
I believe that every person has worth as an individual. Please read together. I believe that every person is entitled to dignity and respect regardless of race or color. I believe that every thought and every act of racial prejudice is harmful. If it is my thought or act, then it is harmful to me as well as to others. Therefore, from this day forward, I will strive daily to eliminate racial prejudice from my thoughts and actions. I will discourage racial prejudice by others at every opportunity. I will treat all people with dignity and respect. I will commit to working with others to transform this community into a place that treats people of all races, ethnicities, and cultures with justice, equity, and compassion. And I will strive daily to honor this pledge, knowing that the world will be a better place because of my efforts. Thank you all. We hope that you will join richmondpledge.org. We love our partnership with Coming to the Table, and
who was murdered also on this day. And his very graphic murder sparked what we know as the civil rights movement. I invite his name, his spirit into this space, and I acknowledge that we did indeed march for him, and we marched with him. I wanted to do this meditation in closing. It was the last thing that I wanted to do. but the way that the Spirit moves, it moves as it will. And so I didn't get the opportunity to do it when I wanted to, but it's coming on time, I think. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop and I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. And the world will look at you and they won't understand you, but you'll go on anyhow.
We started in community. So we encourage you all to approach one of the organizational leaders, find out what they're doing, find a member of coming to the table. If you need a home to volunteer, this is what this was for today.